Welcome to our second Advent short, and today we're jumping into Hebrews chapter 12. It says this: Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. Jesus knew he had come not just to preach the gospel of sacrifice, but to also be that sacrifice. Yet he was perfectly willing. We're often unwilling to do what God says if it doesn't make sense to us. We're often unwilling to inconvenience ourselves for the needs of someone else. We're regularly unwilling to wait. We're often unwilling to be open and honest. We're too often unwilling to consider the loving rebuke of someone else. We struggle to be willing to say no to our thoughts and our desires. We often struggle to be willing to answer God's call. Often we are unwilling to admit that we are wrong. Too often we struggle to serve willingly and to give generously. So here's what the Christmas story is all about: a willing Saviour, born to rescue unwilling people from themselves, because there is no other way. Jesus was willing to leave the splendour of heaven to come to this broken world. He was willing to take on human flesh with all its frailty. He was willing to endure a humble birth in a stable. He was willing to go through the dependency of childhood. He was willing to expose himself to all the hardships of life in this world. He was willing to submit to his own law. He was willing to do his Father's will at every point. He was willing to serve when he deserved to be served. He was willing to be misunderstood and mistreated. He was willing to endure rejection and gross injustice. He was willing to preach a message that would cause him personal harm. He was willing to suffer public mockery. He was willing to endure physical torture. He was willing to go through the pain of his Father's rejection. He was willing to die. He was willing to rise and ascend and to be our constant advocate. Jesus was willing. You see, it's not just the Christmas story, rather it's the whole redemptive story. Hinges on this one thing: the eternal willingness of Jesus. The Advent willingness of Jesus is your guarantee that he continues to be willing today, and he remains willing to do everything necessary to feed, guide, sustain, and protect you until eternity is your final